Well, we're right at 6:30, 6:31, and we definitely have a pretty packed agenda. Layla, are you speaking or is Robert Gibbs coming on?
Well, I just texted Rob to see if he is on. I haven't heard back from him, so I'll go ahead and start if that's okay.
Yeah, we can have you start if you're ready to go. We've
Hey,
got go ahead.
hey, Trupti, are you doing Facebook Live?
We're not. We're
Okay.
not. You know what? We're still trying to figure out the Zoom and us having a panelist type of event. I think for maybe next quarterly we may do something different and see if we get more attendance or anything because this is a lot different than what we normally would do. So welcome. We've got a lot of our board members. They're going to be on video. Our panelists, that's all the speakers. They're going to be on video. Everyone else is just muted by default because that's how the webinar works. You'll be in the attendees, but everybody has access to chat. So any questions, feel free to throw them in chat, and Dawn is going to be monitoring that for questions and fielding them. And this is being recorded, including the chat, and partly is because in case we miss any questions or we have questions that we want to follow up with because we didn't get to, we're going to have those things recorded to go back and respond to folks. So welcome everyone. Thank you very much. The first group up right now is Denver Police Department District 1, and we've got Acting Commander Layla DiStefani. Robert Gibbs may be joining or may be late. So Layla DiStefani will be giving us the update for District 1 Police Department. Layla, take it on.
Okay, hi, I'm Layla DeStefani, and like Trupti said, I'm the acting commander for District 1. I've been the acting commander since March 29th of this year, so I'm getting my feet underneath me, and I want to make the rounds to all these meetings and just so everybody's familiar with my face, and hopefully when we get to have these things in person again, I'll be making the rounds out there. That is a better way to do it, but understanding the current situation we're in, this is the best that we have right now, and I'm glad that we have participation by folks that are still very invested in the safety and the other things that affect their community. So thanks everybody for attending, and I don't really know what you want me to talk about here. I think Rob was going to do that, so I'll figure that out. I can talk to you about crime statistics if that's something that you usually go over.
So yeah, there's a couple of things. I think, I guess Rob just raised his hand. Let's see
Oh, go. Saved by Rob. All right. Thank you, Rob.
Okay, Rob, I'm going to make you a panelist so then you can come on here. Just give it a second. You're going to move over to panelist and you'll have the option to turn your video and your speaker on. So
can you guys hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, good. Okay, good deal. Sorry, I'm at home. I'm cooking dinner and dealing with a dog. Anyway, did you want me to talk about Neighborhood Watch? Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go over crime stats, but you had said, that is always just like a 5-minute conversation. But Neighborhood Watch would be something to talk to the group about, to see if we can find new people interested in it, and also, the value and impact of Neighborhood Watch. I've seen maps during Cag where there's crime everywhere else around where the Neighborhood Watch is, and then that area is like blank on the map. So maybe you can talk a little bit about the impact and the value on crime of having a Neighborhood Watch.
Yeah, so it's been, I don't have specific statistics, but I can tell you that statistically speaking, Neighborhood Watch does help in preventing crime. And what the program is entailed, and in Denver, we like to have at least a 50% participation of residences within a particular street or block. And let's just say there's 10 houses, 5 on each side. We would at least like to have 5 that are involved. But to tell you the truth, the neighborhood watches that I've established, we're looking at about an 80 to 90% participation. Maybe there's one or two that don't want to participate. For the most part, people want to. And what the program is, some people hear the word neighborhood watch and they immediately assume it's sort of like guardian angels. You're going to set up a schedule where people are going to be walking around the neighborhood doing patrol or something like that. All it is that you establish a communication line between all your neighbors that are involved in it. And let's say if you're going to leave town, you send an email to your neighbor saying, hey, I'm going to be out of town for 5 days. Can you keep an eye on my house? That type of thing. And it also encourages people to be nosy. And what I mean by that is if you're noticed that it recently snowed and your neighbor is out of town for a couple of days and you notice that there's shoe prints going to their backyard, that's unusual. That's something that needs to be looked at further. And that's where we encourage people to call the police. Or we had an instance about 3 or 4 years ago at a neighborhood watch that's over by Rocky Mountain Lake Park, where a woman saw a car parked on the street, engine was running, there was an individual inside. She's never seen the car, she never seen the individual. She was nosy. She called the Denver police. We arrived. Long story short, this individual was the driver for a burglar that was breaking into a house about 2 houses down. So they were both apprehended. So that's what the program is all about, is just being nosy. When you notice something, follow your intuition, follow your common sense, and call Denver police. We want people where there's not something that's established like that, people tend to keep to themselves. Maybe they may notice something that maybe we need to check out, but they don't take the time to maybe call the police. So where Neighborhood Watch comes in is we encourage people to call the police on anything that makes their hair on their back stand up. Anything that seems suspicious, we want them to call. And that's all it is. And it's easy to establish. I think I sent you an information sheet on how to establish it. But yeah, it's real simple. There's gotta be somebody on the block that wants to take charge to maybe go door to door and say, hey, do you want to be involved? Gather the contact information. Once it's determined who wants to be involved, they either contact myself or Michelle. And we come to the first meeting. We talk about Neighborhood Watch, what to look out for. We give a little more information on crime prevention. And then we encourage those that are involved in the Neighborhood Watch program to maybe meet once a year, usually during the spring and summer, have like a potluck to just keep communication with your neighbors. And oftentimes too, you may have somebody that may move out and a new family may move in, and you want to include them and make them feel inclusive in the program. And that's all it's about. It's just about basically looking out for one another and being nosy and calling the cops when you need to call the cops.
Well, thank you. Do you want to go over, you still have time, do you want to go over any of the crime stats you would have just, recently covered in a CAG, specific to Sunnyside, not just District 1, if you could?
Yeah, the only thing that we're experiencing really, and it's always going to be that, and it's been that way for a while, is theft from motor vehicles. That's something that's still a crime that is hard for us to stop. We can beat a dead horse and tell folks to, not leave items of value in plain view. We can remind folks to make sure you lock your car. Don't leave your garage door opener in your car, things like that. That's a big challenge for us. But however, we're going to continue to just get that information out to just make sure that you don't leave important items in your car. I mean, I know that there's some people maybe that need the briefcase that they take to work every day. They maybe take a moment to just take it inside with you, or maybe put it in your trunk so it's not visible. For a burglar to break into a car, it takes seconds to break the window and grab that item. And so that's our main challenge that we're having within the entire district, as a matter of fact.
And I'll just add to that, we're across the district, we're up about 22% in property crimes compared to our 3-year average, which is not good. And I think there might be a false sense of security with people being at home more, thinking that, they're going to be safe just because they're going to be around. But these crimes of opportunity are really, really affecting our crime numbers at this point. So whatever you can do to pass along to your neighbors that the importance of not leaving anything, and I mean anything, visible. Don't leave a pair of sunglasses, don't leave loose change, don't leave anything visible because it may not be that valuable to you, but it might be valuable to somebody else, and they might think that there's something else. So please make sure that you're communicating that message to folks, that don't leave anything visible, and definitely do not leave your cars unlocked. We get reports all the time from Ring doorbell saying this guy's going around checking door handles on vehicles or on houses. So please make sure, you know, that you guys are doing what you can, and you're also encouraging the folks that you interact with to, you know, to make sure that that you're doing everything you can to not have this happen to you. The good news is district-wide, we're just under 7% reduction in violent crime. So that has been, you know, the bright light. Now, there have been different categories of violent crime where we've been up and others where we've been down, but overall, just under 7% is where we are right now.
Well, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah, and specifically in your area, it looks like we're down 4.3% in violent crime, but we're up 43.5% in property crime. So that's like burglaries, so people leaving their garage doors open and folks coming in and helping themselves to bicycles or whatever. Theft from motor vehicle, like Rob was saying, and motor vehicle theft too. That's been a big problem as well.
Do we have any questions for our District 1 Police Department? Please put it into the chat if you do.
Are you guys still having your CAG meetings? Did you want to touch on that at all?
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, look at Rob. There we go. We are having CAG meetings. So we're having them the third Monday of every month. And we have been sending out notices on Nextdoor, as well as we have an email list, but you may not be on our email list, and we'd like to get everybody added because we're still getting a lot of good information out, I think, and just letting folks know what's going on, but it doesn't matter if you're not aware of it. So please reach out to me or Rob and get us your contact information, or Trupti, if you want to send out an email to all the folks and just let us know who wants to be added. Or if you have a list that you can send to us, and we'll add them to our invite list.
What email should they send to get on this list?
Well, either myself or the commander.
Oh, okay, so just your emails directly. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Would
that's
you
fine.
give a brief description of what CAG stands for?
It's Commander Advisory Group. Basically, it's an opportunity for the citizens to see who the commander is of the district. The commander, of course, she's on Zoom right now. We'll tell you, she just covers current crime trends, strategies that we're using or implementing to combat that. Also, maybe we'll give updates on major crime events that occurred within the district. And it's also people's opportunity to ask questions as well, and we can address those questions.
So, you know, every month we have like a different topic that Rob, well, actually Rob doesn't go because it's on Mondays and he's usually off, but Michelle Cooper is our CRO who works on Mondays. And so she'll do a presentation on this last time we had Halloween safety, just whatever the relevant topics are. We also had you know, some information on street racing, because that's become more and more of a problem that we're seeing. So just ways that folks can report that. And we also talk, we'll give like 3 or 4 examples of some really good police work that's being done out there. And then the members of CAG get to vote on who our top cop is. So we have a top cop every month. And so that's my favorite part of it, because I get to brag on the officers and then the great work that they're doing. And again, an opportunity to ask questions, to talk about if, you know, you have a speeding issue in your neighborhood or whatever your concerns are. Those are the things that we address. We usually try to keep it at about 45 minutes. Just, you know, this is a difficult format to have a really long meeting on. So, you know, we want to honor everybody's time, but you can just do it while you're cooking dinner or while you're eating dinner. And, you know, so a lot of people have actually liked that.
I will say that when I first moved into the neighborhood, there was a shooting like a block away. I learned about CAG, and I have a lot of respect for that monthly meeting where you share, district-wide, down to street level, the type of crime, and then you're comparing it, period over period, national versus, us locally. It is, I would say it's one of the most important meetings in the neighborhood if you want to know about what's going on specific to crime and safety once a month. And what I also learned recently, and I might have to reach out to Commander Payson, was that not all districts do a monthly CAG meeting. So that was news to me, and I'm surprised because it is such an informative meeting that it's actually not being done citywide. So might be something that other districts could benefit from. So it's something on my list to do, to reach out to the city and ask them how come, they don't do this in the rest of the districts like they do here. So we're very lucky to have this, is what I would say.
All right.
Yeah, and the meetings I've gone to, they've been very informative. So I am appreciative for the information. Definitely.
Good.
And in fact, our board meeting used to be on the third Monday of the month. And that was one of the first things I changed to move it so that we, as the SUNI board, had an opportunity to attend this meeting as well. And the in-person meetings, they used to be a lot of fun. They used to serve dinner from a different place in the neighborhood. So, you couldn't beat it. You get free dinner, you get to meet your police department and learn about what's going on. So definitely one of the important meetings of the community. Thank you. Thank you so much. So I know you guys may have had other places to go. You're free to stay on or jump off. We appreciate your time, and
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
All right, great. We're on time. We're moving ahead. We're gained a couple of minutes. So Amanda, you are actually next. So feel free to give us your, office updates. I don't believe there was any documents that I needed to share, so.
Yeah, thank you, Tripti. So I'll just go down a couple of updates that I have for the neighborhood. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to stop me along the way or put them in the chat. So I did see in the chat that Jen Al talked about accessory dwelling units and Chaffee Park, the neighborhood to the north of I-70. We've been working on that with the neighborhood since I got elected. So that was something that was really driven by the neighborhood, and I led a legislative rezoning. So I know you've been talking to Naomi in my office. Make sure that you can reach out to the group Sunnyside, their planning and community development, and then also make sure that you reach out to community planning and development, the agency in the city and county of Denver that deals with all land use. So with that, many of you know that I've working on changing the name of Columbus Park to La Raza Park. Thank you to everyone who showed up to the petition signatures. We made it to the next step. The next step is it will go before the PRAB, so it's called the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. And that board is made up of one appointee per council district. And then I think the mayor has 5 appointees on that board. So it's a pretty big board. And that board meets Monday, November 16th at 5:30. And they will be, it's a public hearing to talk about the La Raza Park name change proposal that I'm bringing on behalf of the community. If you haven't written a letter of support, I can put an email down in the chat and you can reach out to my office. I have a template, or if you'd like to attend the meeting, I'm really looking for people who can attend the meeting virtually. It's all virtually. To talk about the importance of the park name change. For me, it's really important. I was born and raised in the north side, and I've always called it La Raza Park. So I feel like I'm doing this on behalf of all the people who've lived here way before me and who will come after me. So once again, that's Monday, November 16th at 5:30, and it's a virtual meeting. I have I don't know if they do Zoom. I don't know if they do WebEx or Zoom, but I can get that out. The next update is, as many of you know, there's a big, it's called the Community Transportation Network Project. They've been working on this for the past year in Northwest Denver, and they're adding more bike lanes into the neighborhood. So the impacted areas of Sunnyside are 46th Avenue from Federal all the way down to Inca, and on Tejon Street, and also on 41st. So 41st will be a bikeway. So if you've ever taken 35th Avenue, how they have the bikeway from Sheridan all the way down to Guadalupe Church, 41st Avenue will look like that. So that's in Sunnyside as well, I believe. Yeah, and then so that will have a big impact. For more information on that, I know Troop D's been working, putting out signs. I like the signs. That I think it's gotten more traction now that the sign is out. The one that I would say is most controversial in Sunnyside is the Tejon bikeway, because they're proposing to take parking from both sides of Tejon. So you would not be able to park on either side of Tejon, which I think would impact a lot of businesses and also residents. So that one's to be determined. I haven't heard back on that one yet, but they have a really good, robust website, and they have a stakeholder committee. And Troop D is your point of contact for Sunnyside for that bikeway infrastructure coming forward. And what they're doing it used to be called Public Works, but now it's called the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, so DOTI for short. What DOTI is doing is they're basing all of the bikeways on the paving schedule. So as paving comes through, the bikeways will be improved. So you won't always see them done at the same time, because they're basing them on the 2021 and 2022 paving schedule. And with that, there's a little caveat in there. Also, Denver Water is doing lead replacement. So I think all of you should have received a water pitcher, because we have lead pipes, which lead to lead poisoning. So unfortunately, what happens is Northwest Denver is one of the older parts of town. Highland used to be its own little town before it got annexed into Denver. So one of the first places that had this replacement was the Chaffee Park neighborhood that is directly north of you. So paving schedules are being as coordinated as possible with DOTI. So some of these bikeways may change. Some of them may not come through. Some of them may be planned for 2021 or 2022, but that might change depending on how and where Denver Water is. So I'm doing the best to coordinate so that there's not Denver Water 1 week or a couple weeks, and then also the bike lane another week, and then paving. Unfortunately, that happened in the Regis neighborhood near Willis Case. They came in and chip and sealed the whole entire neighborhood. And then Denver Water came in 2 weeks later and tore up all the work that Denver did and did the pipe replacement. So I'm sure for those who know me, I was not happy with that. So I've made sure that we are trying to do as much coordination as possible. So once again, Troop D's your point of contact for the community bike network. And if you have any questions, you can always call my office. Yeah, Troop D?
Yeah, Amanda. So in terms of that coordination and when work is going to happen on a particular corridor or an area, if you may be the first one to know about it, please, pass it on to me, and I'll pass it on to the community via Nextdoor and Facebook, newsletter, whatever, especially with what you're talking about, that, with this coordination, maybe things are different or changed. I know more recently, I got a notification from the city when they were working on the North Tejon and Shoshone for the lead pipes, and we did post it out. But anyway, if you hear about some work happening in Sunnyside with this, either one of these things being coordinated, just send me a note, and I'll make sure I notify the community through our channels.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tripti. I always make sure when we get any Denver Water notifications, I always send them out to the registered neighborhood organization leadership, and I also put them in my monthly newsletter. And I do my best to put them on Facebook, so, or Instagram, if you follow me. So I do my best to keep up, but for sure we get them out to the most impacted registered neighborhood organization. So the second thing that I'll talk about, and I won't dive too much into it because I know that Elizabeth Weigle from CPD is on your agenda, but once a month I have, because I have a planner, I don't have, my office isn't a traditional council office where everyone does constituent services. I actually have an in-house planner to help me with some overlays. I'm working on an active street use overlay on Tennyson, which would require 70% active street use. We're working on the accessory dwelling units in Chaffee Park that get voted on in a couple weeks. Now I'm looking at Sloan's Lake for accessory dwelling units. We're working on a overlay in this neighborhood. Is we get a lot of planning questions. So once a month, the last Friday of the month, I always host it's called Ask a Planner. And you can join via Facebook. I do it Facebook Live. And this Friday, October 30th, between 8 and like 9:30, 9 or 9:30, depending on how many questions we have, we'll also have Liz from Community Planning and Development talking about the neighborhood planning initiative that's about to start for 4 neighborhoods. It's called the Near Northwest Planning Initiative. And so it's Jefferson Park, Highland, Sunnyside, and Chaffee Park. And so my land use planner, Naomi Grenditz from my office, and usually someone from Community Planning and Development, we have that monthly. The last one we had was about the Affordable Housing Incentive Task Force that I sit on. And the one before that was about the group living zoning code update that's coming. So it's usually all related to land use and infrastructure and different topics of that nature. I don't know if we'll have one in November because it's Thanksgiving, and then the last Friday in December is Christmas. So we're working on those dates. But we would love to have you join us, and we usually send out a graphic, and we'd love Sunnyside to share it, to join us. I know 8 o'clock's early in the morning on Friday, but we try to do it before people go to work so we can get some type of engagement, because I know a lot of us are working virtually, so I try to do it early in the morning. I also host weekly, I used to host in-person office hours, and I would go to different coffee shops. Now I do, I try to do weekly, but depending on my schedule, sometimes it's every other week, virtual office hours. And you can go to my website, District 1, www.denvergov.org/District1. And you can sign up on my website in case you have an issue that you'd just like to talk about with me and my staff. So we host virtual office hours weekly on Fridays, and the time changes. So what I've decided to do is sometimes they're from early in the morning, about 9 to like 11 or 1. I can't remember exactly. Or we do them later on in the afternoon, so that people, I usually try to hit either people who can do them early in the morning before they start work, and then lunchtime. So people, I make myself accessible to my community. And the last thing that I'll mention is on two last announcements. November 17th, I'm hosting the community group living update is coming. And so it's kind of slowed down. It's a very robust and vast update to the zoning in Denver. And it's a bit complicated. So virtually, I'm hosting a neighborhood-wide virtual community working session. I'll invite all the R&O leadership. We're in the middle of working on the graphic, and we'll send it out in my newsletter in November. But it will be Wednesday the 18th in the evening. So if anybody wants to join, once again, I'll do it Facebook Live. So if you want to learn more about that initiative that's been being worked on in City Council for the last 2 years, I'll give an update on that, and people can weigh in and give their opinion. And then back to the neighborhood planning initiative. This is a very unique opportunity. It's the first time where the neighborhood planning initiative has been in one council district with one council person. So I decided to get my registered neighborhood organization leadership together, and I'm hosting an event on December 2nd with all 4 of the registered neighborhood organizations to talk about what we would like to talk about stakeholder, talk about outreach, talk about how to, what I really would like to see with this neighborhood plan is I think about neighborhoods kind of like an onion, and how can you peel back the layers of the onion to get more into the center. So you have the outer core of the onion that's really active, people with their registered neighborhood organization. You have the middle one, to people who just live in the neighborhood, maybe they're on next door and they use the neighborhood park. And then you, as you get to more of the center, you have people who are more disenfranchised and not as engaged. And I would really like to see as many people engaged in this process as possible. I would like to see children involved. I would like us to partner with North High School. I'd like us to partner with the elementary schools. I'd like us to partner with the lots of different businesses in Northwest Denver, because the neighborhood plan will be setting the vision for the next like 30, 40 years for this neighborhood. So with that, I'll take a break, and I think that there is a question in the chat.
Yeah, there is. So I think you had mentioned the community group living update. I think you said November 17th, and then you said Wednesday, November 18th. So there's a question about, is it the 17th or is it the 18th on the community group living update that you're doing?
Okay, hold on. Let me check my calendar. Oh,
Okay, Gina said the 18th, so it's Wednesday, the 18th. And for all the folks, if you're not looking at chat, Gina, who works with Councilwoman Sandoval, has posted, the community hours. She's posted the newsletter, as well as let me see, I think she posted the webinar or posted for November 18th as well. But I would encourage everyone to actually sign up for the newsletter. Amanda, you guys have been doing a great job. It's been very informative. Your newsletter has a lot of good content, and it's pretty complete and comprehensive. So I would encourage everyone to sign up for that as well. And the link is in the chat, so you can go do that. Otherwise, it's easy enough to find. Do we have any other questions for Amanda? I'm seeing nothing else here.
So with that, I'll just end. I know Brad's next, and he'll say the same thing. If you haven't turned in your ballot, make sure to vote. It's too late to put it in the mail, so please drop it off at a local drop box. If you have any questions about, the city council referred a lot of initiatives to the ballot. So if you live in the city and county of Denver, we're 3 pages front and back. Whereas my brother-in-law who lives in Lakewood, it's just 1 page front and back. So some of them are a bit confusing. If you call my office, and I don't use my city email for reaching out on taking a position, so I could either explain them to you, or a group of us, local electeds, Brad, our director, Laurvick, is part of it, meet weekly. So it's our state senator, Julie Gonzalez, State Rep Serena Gonzalez Gutierrez, Councilwoman Torres, Councilwoman Ortega, myself, and your RTD rep, Angie Malpietti, Brad, who's our Denver School Board rep, and then Angela Cobian, who's more South Denver. She's a DPS rep. We meet weekly, and we all vetted these together, and we have a ballot guide. Unfortunately, I can't put it on my social media. I can put it on my personal one, so I think I shared it there. But if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. But we have to rock this vote, so please vote.
Well, thank you. And Brad had his hand raised. Brad, I made you a panelist, but I don't see you here yet. Hold on. No, he's not there either. Okay, oh, there you are. Brad, you should be able to unmute and talk.
Thank you. I just wanted you to know where I was in the list, so when it was my turn, we were ready to go.
It's actually your turn, and we're right on time, so feel free to start.
Wonderful. Well, it's good to be with you all this evening. I appreciate the invitation and the chance to check in. There's a lot happening. And when we scheduled this, I had no way to know that just hours before we would have our meeting this evening, we'd be letting our building leaders, principals, etc., know about some changes happening. So I've got news that I can walk everybody through on some of the changes. Of course, the big piece today from the city as we move to that level 3 of the safer at home piece. We've been tracking this so closely. DPS has our little indicator lights that let us know when it's time to go talk to the doctors. And we've been talking to the doctors on a very regular basis. There's sometimes I feel like I've seen the doctors more than I've seen my family. And I'm very grateful for the docs down at Denver Health for giving us so much of their time and making really good decisions and tracking data for us. Please know that as we make decisions for Denver public students, it's all based on data, and they're helping us look at the exact data for DPS. So we look at our student and teacher building data, then we look at the Denver County data, then we look at the Metro data, and then we look at the state data, sort of that, all of it together. And the news that'll be shifting, coming out, it officially went to building leaders, and then I think Chalkbeat picked it up, and now the Post has it and it's rolling out. You'll be getting official communication from your schools, and official press releases coming out from DPS as well. But the key piece is that for our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, beginning Monday, they will go back to remote learning. We are going to be able to keep ECE through 2nd grade. So that's preschool, kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd in building. We will also be keeping open our centers for special education for newcomers. And we also have some of those remote learning centers where if your child or a neighbor, anyone that you might know in your life needs a place to do their remote learning safely, there are places to go, school buildings you can be in that are proctored to give them a safe space or even access if the hotspots don't work or other such things that we try to support our students with. But so we will, again, ECE preschool through 2nd grade will still remain in building. 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade will be remote, and they will be remote through November. For sure. Now, towards the end of the month by Thanksgiving, we will let folks know if the doctors and the health data supports the 3rd, 4th, 5th graders coming back in December. If the data supports that, if the trends are in a healthy place, we would like to do that. We know our students learn better in person, but we want to make sure they're learning in a healthy and safe environment. Our schools have been so thus far. The in-person rate of COVID within DPS students is 0.005%. Right? Like our students do not, it's that. Now, mind you, some students have it. I don't want to belittle the experience of any student, but they aren't getting it at school. People are getting COVID, usually in the home, when someone in the home has gotten it from being out and about. The risk in building has been so minimal, but out of an abundance of caution, the health data right now with the way the trends have been throughout all of Denver is not supporting us being able to keep that many people in building. And so ECE through 2nd grade lets us keep fewer people in buildings, right, which is in general helpful and safer. It gives us more space to work with, especially as the weather gets cold. That was one of those pieces we saw yesterday when, no outside day. So, what would we do? Well, this gives them more room in every single building. And the other reason we focused on those grade levels is those are our kids who haven't, in general, haven't fully learned to read. They're still learning to read. And remote learning is a lot harder when you aren't yet reading to learn. When you're still learning to read, it's different. Especially for our ECEers, kindergartners, they need more engagement. And developmentally, it's not appropriate to put them in front of a screen for that long. So that's why we're able to do what we're able to do there. The reason you're starting to hear some of it, like things always get sort of shared out, but we talk to our building leaders and then we're sending out communication to all of the teachers, and then we do the community. Every once in a while, and I actually got a couple frustrated emails just from people in Denver, not specifically our immediate neighbors, but we serve the entire city, who are like, why am I hearing about this from the media and not from DPS? Since we're here, I want to give you the heads up. We have an order of things, right? We got to tell the building leaders, then we tell the teachers, then we communicate out to all the families, right? But if any one of the principals or any one of the teachers tells a friend, then that friend tells the media, then suddenly it's in the media before we've had a chance to tell you. We do our best to be as quick as we can with those things. But sometimes those things just, well, the cart and the horse, they get a little rolling downhill together side by side. So that's the biggest piece of information I can give you at the moment. I did not mention our 6th through 12th graders. They've been remote. And currently the data, as you can see, if we're pulling 3rd through 5th graders back to remote, 6th through 12th graders will also be staying in that space. They will be staying in that space through the end of this semester. Mainly because with the setups and the nuance and the difficulty of high school scheduling, to try to get them to do one thing for the quarter and then switch in the middle, it's very, very hard to do it appropriately. And so they'll continue. If we have the ability to open more buildings up for more support time, we will. Please know that the DPS leadership, the senior leadership team, and the board, we want our kids in school. We want your kids in school. I use the term our, not just meaning my biological children, but like our neighborhood, our Denver children. We want our kids in school because they learn better, they engage more. It's just a healthier environment, academically speaking. But we have to guarantee it's a healthy environment, virally speaking. And we really want to be careful and cautious with that. I will tell you, the other piece to know is this decision to move back to remote is not because of spread in the schools. It's because we're trying to minimize disruption. This is the other piece. We've been in a lot of conversation with the doctors. The doctors believe we can have our kids in building and not see spread. We have the right precautions in place. However, when student A, someone in their household gets it and they get it, and then you have to close that room down, we'd see too many rooms closing down, not because people have it from school to school, but just because they bring it in, then their whole room has to quarantine. The disruptions would be so regular. That's not helpful and healthy for the way we want to run our buildings. So that's some of the background and reasoning. I wonder if folks, if I have a few minutes, I'd be happy to take any just questions and just check in to see what folks need to know.
Thank you. Folks, if anybody have a question who's on a panelist and can actually speak, and if not, please put your question into the chat and we'll read it out to Brad. So Brad, what's happening in terms of folks who where English is a second language, maybe they don't have internet at home. I mean, I would think in our neighborhood, Trevista may be one that's impacted with their kids. How is Trevista handling the remote learning, access to computers, access to internet?
We have gotten to a place as a district where more than 98% of our students have devices to do remote learning. There are still a few little patches here or there, mainly because of trying to make sure the family's been able to get the device from us. But we've done, handouts and intentional locations around. We've put a lot of investment in the technology. And the next piece is connection. And so we've been able to work with Comcast for the Comcast Essentials plan to support students with, and even fund some of it, to say, hey, it's only very minimal cost per month to get at least the basics you need for internet. And we're even able to help fund that. When that's not an option, we also have invested in tons of Verizon hotspots. Now, in our neighborhood, and by not just our neighborhood, my district runs all the way through Globeville, Elaria, Swansea, all the way out to Colorado Boulevard, north of 32nd, and then all the way down to 6th Avenue. We generally have good coverage. Where we're finding their issues are like out in the far northeast, Green Valley Ranch and some other places. The cell coverage is spotty. The internet wasn't available. And so we're looking for some specific ways to support there. That's also where we're trying to open more and more buildings while we're in remote to say, you can come be here and use our internet. In fact, even as we go remote, teachers are still able to be in their buildings to do their remote educating from their classrooms. Because we also know some of our educators don't have the high enough bandwidth to really handle that. I saw the note here, James just popped in the question, why was the decision made if the belief is that transmittal is not occurring in the schools? The biggest piece is because of the number of people that are experiencing COVID throughout the community, we would see too many quarantines in rooms.
Did we lose him? I lost you guys.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can still hear him.
I can hear and see you.
Yep, we can still see you.
I think Trupti's internet got stuck.
Yeah, it was my internet. Sorry, guys.
Okay, no worries. So James, touching back on James' question, The doctors, when we looked at pieces, started running some numbers, and they gave us estimates around this is how often rooms are going to get quarantined. And the number of times kids would suddenly get a note of, hey, someone in your room was positive, so your whole room has to go back, even though you most likely will not get it from them. We still have to quarantine to double make sure. Suddenly everyone would be going home, and it would be back and forth with one night's notice. And those kinds of pieces, it just became unmanageable. We also run into some situations where, because of staffing, if one room quarantines and then someone else does, suddenly you run out of enough people. We actually have a couple schools right now that have been remote only because of operational reasons, right? Like, let's say one staff member's spouse is dealing with COVID. Well, that staff member then has to quarantine, right? So they're like, I won't be in for 2 weeks. Well, if we don't have enough people to fill that teacher's room, suddenly that room does. So then that room that's closed down. Like, it's amazing how when someone in the community gets COVID, it actually can affect our classrooms, even though there's no spread in the classroom. I got an email from someone today who said, how come we can go to the zoo and we can go to the Cherry Creek Mall, but you guys can't keep schools open? And one of the things that's deeply frustrating to me is it's because the mall is open and it's because the zoo is open that the community spread is so high. And now we're having to make and do all of this heavy lift on the backs of our children's education. If people would wear masks and stay home and do those other pieces, our kids could still be in their classrooms. I want them there desperately, and we've really looked so hard. And so we're going to continue doing that work. Please know that we are definitely doing everything we can to get them there. But we made the commitment that we will work hand in hand with the doctors, and it was with their guidance and the shift within Denver as a whole. There's also the piece where inviting folks, we know where the numbers are, but when we tell somebody, hey, we're going to keep all the kids in school, but by the way, everyone has to stay home and the restaurants can't have people, and it all is sort of moving together. And so as Denver makes that move, we are with them, but only partially. I'm very, very grateful I don't have to tell you that you little kids have to stay home. The fact that we have ECE through 2 means a lot to me right now. And I very much appreciate those who are doing incredible effort to make sure that happens and happens safely.
Great. If we don't have any other questions for Brad, we could be
Hey,
done.
Troopty, I just have a quick question. This is Amy. Brad, hey, I'm just out of curiosity, what has happened to staff? Like, I'm assuming custodial staff are still working at some capacity, but what about bus drivers and people that work in the cafeteria? Like, people that are, well, again, office staff are probably working, but do you have a sense of what's happening to them? Are they furloughed?
No, thus far, since March, we have not had to let anyone go. We've been able to repurpose and retask. For example, some of the remote learning centers, right, where my child will be learning from their teacher on a computer, but they're in a room with someone. Well, the background checked, safe, caring adult may be one of the cafeteria, nutritional service providers from that school. Now, that doesn't mean the nutritional service provider is teaching my child. That means that person is making sure my kid is safe, the room is in a healthy way, right? Kids are where they need to be. And so that's been a place there. We've been able to move things. Now, when we had some positions that just were open, we didn't fill them, right? We've been doing everything we can that way. Thus far, we have not had to make those really hard decisions because we know that as Denver's largest employer, we have 15,000 employees. If we were to start slashing our staff, the whole community would feel that in very, very deep ways. So we've been finding ways to engage and support them as they continue to find new ways creatively to support our students. Great question. I'm going to put it in the chat, but I know not everyone has access to the chat necessarily.
Wait, everyone should have access to chat.
All panelists and attendees. My email is Brad_Laurvick, LAUR, V as in Victor, ICK, at dpsk12.org. And that is a place that you can get a hold of me. Do me a favor. We get inundated with email. Like my phone has been blowing up today. If you live in the neighborhood, it is so helpful if you say, hey, Brad, I'm one of your neighbors. It just really helps me know that we need to have a deeper level conversation than I know folks down in Southeast that, Scott Balderman's taking care of their needs. So I don't have to, when I've got 100 emails in an afternoon, I'm looking for my neighbors first. I'll just name that. So please make sure you let me know so I can tend to your needs.
Thank you, Brad. Anybody else questions before we let Brad go and jump over to Elizabeth with CPD. All right.
Thank you so much. It means a lot to get to be with you all. This is the part of the job I appreciate the most, is working together with our neighbors. Have a great night.
Thank you so much. Take care. All right, Elizabeth, are you on? Can you talk? Are you unmuted?
I am on. Do you hear me?
Yep, I can
Great.
hear you.
Thank you all for having me. And thank you. Oh, go ahead.
Can everybody see the document? I just want to make sure everybody can see the neighborhood planning. I was having a little trouble sharing.
Yes.
That's why.
I
Okay,
can see
good.
that. And Trupti, should I just let you know if I want to go to the next?
Yeah, just do that. I mean,
Okay.
I'll just
Sounds
move now since here we are.
Okay, great. Thank you all for having me tonight. And thanks to Brad for that update. I'm a kindergarten parent, so that's good to hear that news. So I wanted to come out tonight, and I appreciate the invitation because we're getting ready to launch the Near Northwest Area Plan, and it's an exciting planning project for this area. And I know many in the neighborhood have been eagerly awaiting the start of this process. So I wanted to give some background just on what area plans are, on our process, and then what you might expect coming up in the next few months for the Near Northwest Area Plan. You can skip to the next one. So for those of you that don't get into the intricacies of planning every day, planning is really our opportunity to kind of think long term. So we take this as the ability to look out, 20 years into the future and talk as a community about what we want our neighborhoods to be like, right? What's our kind of ideal world, and then talk about strategies about how to get there. So a little different than kind of the everyday thinking about kind of how do we get, a pothole fixed on our street, or how do we deal with kind of a more immediate need, but really thinking about that long-term piece and having that conversation. And ultimately, it's a policy document that City Council will adopt, and it really helps inform decision-making. So it's a policy that we've agreed to as a community, and helps inform things like zoning decisions. It helps inform budgeting, so future infrastructure projects. That's what a plan can help us inform in the future. Skip to the next one. So we do kind of two types of planning in the city. First being citywide planning. So last year in 2019, we adopted 2 new citywide plans, our comprehensive plan. So that kind of speaks to our vision as a city overall, and Blueprint Denver, which is focused on land use and transportation. Those documents give broad policy guidance. We also have some that focus on specific topics. So game plan looked at parks in the city. We have a number of mobility focused plans on pedestrians, transit, that are look at those citywide. So go to the next slide. So with neighborhood plans, we really have the opportunity to really dive in on a specific area. So get detailed recommendations for a group of neighborhoods. Sometimes we do them along corridors. We've done them around station areas, like the 41st and Fox station area has a plan. And they really address many topics and show how they interrelate at that local level. So we get the opportunity to think about all these things that we have at the citywide level and how they work together. We ultimately kind of adopt them as a supplement to our citywide plan. So they have to be consistent with those citywide goals, and we sort of use those citywide goals as a starting point. And then we get into more detailed recommendations. If you want to go to the next slide. So this just gets into that in a little more detail. Again, we would be starting with citywide goals and identified strategies underneath them. We would make recommendations for capital projects. So you might say, this is where we want to see a park improvement happen. This is where we want to see better bike infrastructure, better sidewalks, those types of things, and come up with those strategies for implementation. So, affordable housing is a big topic. What are our strategies to help us get to achieving our affordable housing goals? And those would all be outlined in the plan. Go to the next one. So about, I guess, almost 5 years ago, we took a look at where we already had neighborhood plans in the area. Sunnyside does have a plan. I believe it's from 1992, so it's getting up there in age at this point. But so when we looked at it, this map here shows that these are areas in blue that had, somewhat recent plans. So plans that were less than 15 years old. So there's a lot of the city that hasn't had the opportunity to really talk about planning issues in detail or hasn't done it recently. And we really wanted to come up with a plan for how we could get every neighborhood in the city to have updated plan guidance and have those updated conversations. If we go to the next slide. So we started the neighborhood planning initiative. So the idea behind this was to try to get to all of our neighborhoods within about 10 to 15 years and get updated plan guidance across the city. And part of that strategy was to group our neighborhoods together. So look at areas in the city where we could do that planning together. And I'll show you the map of near Northwest shortly, but you can see in this map here, we also created phases for when we would start. And this was based on a number of factors, whether there was recent plan guidance, sort of change that's already happening in neighborhoods that we want to get ahead of. And some other pieces went into that, but we are just now completing phase 1, which is the ones in purple. So East is going to council later in November, and that will be the last one of phase 1. And we've started phase 2 with West, and then near Northwest and near Southeast will be starting shortly as well. If you go to the next one. So as Councilwoman Sandoval mentioned, near Northwest will cover 4 what we call statistical neighborhoods. So it's sort of these boundaries that we use in community planning development to define neighborhoods. So we've got Chaffee Park, Sunnyside, Highland, and Jefferson Park will all be part of that near Northwest area. So it does cover a large area. It's about 3.8 miles, about 25,000 people live in that planning area. Go to the next slide. This is just a quick snapshot of the types of topics that we expect that we will cover through the process. So there's that overall visioning that we'll do, and we always look to cover topics like land use, built form. So what do we want our neighborhoods to look like, urban design wise, housing, economy. So if you think about like small businesses and how we support them, mobility. So that's street types, transportation improvements across all modes, and what we call quality of life infrastructure, and that kind of captures parks and recreation, healthy living, and environmental resiliency. So things like green infrastructure would fall under that. But we also have this opportunity through the process to really focus in on particular topics. So if there's something that becomes kind of that we see as a big community priority, and we want to dive deeper into that, we have that ability to really focus in on that in the plan as well. We'll go to the next slide. So, a big piece of this, and Councilwoman Sandoval mentioned, is that community engagement piece. And we really want to ensure that we're providing as many opportunities as possible for people to participate, but also that we're reaching those different community members, both those who would traditionally participate and those who maybe wouldn't or are less represented traditionally. And we want to be able to get to those different groups. And we really rely on partnerships with registered neighborhood organizations, different nonprofits in the area, other partners to help us reach those other groups. And clearly we're going to need to think about, with COVID happening, how we are able to do that, assuming that when we start the process, there'll still be some of these restrictions in place, and how we really reach people in kind of difficult times for doing in person. And we will have a steering committee as well. So that traditionally has both R&O representation, but we also seek to have that balanced group of stakeholders that really represents different views and also represents the demographics of the neighborhood. So we want that diversity of views in that steering committee. And a steering committee is really kind of a regular participation group that can kind of help with community engagement, but also help shape the plan on a more regular basis. Skip to the next one. Okay, so what's next? We do have a website up, so that's you can go to the address here, and my email address is on that page as well. And you can sign up for updates. So we've got a email list going, so you'll receive any updates that are coming up in the near future. As Councilwoman Sandoval mentioned, I will be also at the Ask a Planner event this Friday, and I think we have that RNO leadership meeting scheduled in December. But if there's any other kind of events that you know, I know there's not much going on right now, but if there are others that you know are happening in the area and that we would, it would be beneficial for us to go and give an update, then please let me know. But we do anticipate that we'll be kicking off in the first quarter. It would probably be March. That would be a real kind of what we call kind of a bigger kickoff for the larger community. We'd probably have a steering committee start earlier before we have a big public meeting. But we do anticipate this will be about a 2-year process. So it's probably wrapping up towards the end of 2022. We would have a draft plan that we can take forward to City Council. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions from anybody. Thanks.
Well, thank you. And I want to add that I believe the steering committee, and you can correct me, Liz, is going to be spearheaded by council office in terms of putting a steering committee together for Near Northwest, which for us.
Yeah, we will be working very closely with, and we've had some discussions already with Councilwoman Sandoval on identifying potential members to be on that committee. And yeah, we're really seeking to have that kind of diverse group that it is a commitment for people. Usually we have 1-2 hour meeting every month, and we do ask you to help with the engagement and some homework assignments sometimes. So there's that level of commitment, but we definitely work closely with the councilwoman's office. And as she mentioned, we only have one council district in Near Northwest. All of the others, we've had at least 2 council members, so it does make it a little bit easier on the coordination piece.
I don't see any questions in chat for you, Liz. So thank you very much. Liz, are you the planner assigned to Near Northwest? So we're going to see you quite a bit.
You will see me quite a bit, and there'll be a team of us. So we will have, there's 2 others on my team, Ella Stevie and Edson Ibanez, who will also you'll see regularly. And we will, with these larger planning projects, we do bring in a consultant team. We haven't done that yet, but there will be additional consultant support as we get started.
Okay, great. And I'm going to flip back to, and I think we have Macky Bennet. Macky, looks like you're off of a mute, and she's with Bienvenidos, and she's on the board there. Liz, thank you. We will see you around for sure.
Good evening. Hi.
Macky, thank you. Talk to us a little bit about Bienvenidos.
All right. Well, we're the neighborhood food bank. We're located across from the Burger King on Pecos, right by Pecos and 38th. And we have been in the neighborhood for many, many, many years. And we want to say that we started to say we were celebrating our 20th anniversary, but then we realized there's no reason to celebrate hunger in the neighborhood. So we are really working very hard, especially during COVID, to try to help families as much as possible. We never turn anyone away, and we're able to help in so many ways. We can deliver food, we can have people come and take food, and we are looking for help to do a food drive because everything is so up in the air right now. We don't have any of our regular things going on. All the churches that supported us during the holidays are not necessarily meeting, and all of our traditional ways of getting food and support and donations are kind of out the window right now. So when we heard that you might be interested in helping us with the food drive, we were very excited. our director, Greg's wife, is having her 50th birthday tonight. So I'm a longtime board member and I'm standing in for Greg. I hope I can answer your questions, but basically almost all the information about us is on our website, and it's just bienvenidosfoodbank.com. And it's an incredible website because it even has a list of all of the foods that we need for donation. It talks about our hours, where you can drop food off, how you can help us, whether you can give fresh food or canned food or both. It explains everything in great detail, and it tells, you know, as I said, our hours of operation. And let's see, what else can I say? Maybe some questions would be helpful.
Hey, Dawn, do we have any questions in chat for Macky?
I have a question.
Okay.
It's Amy. Hey, Macky. First of all, thanks for all that you do. This is, I think, a treasure to have you guys in our neighborhood. I'm under the assumption, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that Bienvenidos prefers cash to actual donations. Is that?
It's very helpful because right now as I say, we're not getting our traditional, where nothing is working as it has in the past right now. And so we're needing to purchase a lot of food, especially we do lots of Thanksgiving boxes, and we give away a lot of food at Thanksgiving and at Christmas. And we are not, you know, as I said, we're not getting the traditional things. So instead of we didn't have a turkey drive this year, which we usually have from Generator, who does that for us. They're doing a gift card drive, and we're going to give away gift cards to grocery stores so that people can get a turkey. And so $1 is, we can convert to $9 worth of purchased food. So yes, donations of money, even in the smallest amount, $1 to $5 to $10, is extremely helpful. However, we do, as I say, have a list of preferred foods on our website. And, you know, it's cranberry stuffing, canned goods, green beans, things like that, things that are traditional holiday foods that would be very appreciated. We also have drop-off locations at several churches in the neighborhood, as well as at our food bank. And we have an alleyway where you can drive if you come during food bank operation hours, and people will come out to your car and unload it. Or we can come and get it if it's a large amount of food. So as I said, everything is spelled out so specifically on our website that I think it could be very helpful to look there if you have questions.
Yeah, and just for the folks on the phone who don't know, you know, I reached out to Greg to ask him about, you know, what the holidays were looking like for the food bank, and he shared that, you know, a lot of the normal resources are not donating, so the need is higher in terms of donations and funding that they require. And I suggested, you know, whether he'd be interested in a neighborhood-wide food drive, and if we can make it larger. So Macky, apparently you work with Honey a lot.
Yes.
So, you know, the other thing I would be open to, you know, kind of working through Amanda's office to make it a little bit more, a larger, district-wide food drive or donation drive. I mean, I always just think, well, if the 30,000 households plus, I mean, 30,000 with just those 4 neighborhoods, if everybody did $1, we'd have $30,000, you know? So
it's true. And that just can mean so much. And we usually give gifts at Christmas as well. And we were doing it through the Highland Church that's next to Menchie's by North High. And they're going through a big transition right now. So they weren't able to do our gift drive as usual. So it's just a different year in every way. And, you know, the weather can really hurt us because we try, we've just bought umbrellas for all of the people who have to stand in line and, you know, in inclement weather. And we have tents now where we try to, you know, meet the clients outside so no one has to come inside. And we're trying to keep our volunteers safe as well as all of the recipients. But it's a challenge every day. And this is nothing like, you know, the way we've ever done things before. So that would be so wonderful to have, the more support, the better. The more we can get that recognition from the community that we are in the trenches right now, and we're getting, there's a lot of need, and we're trying to meet it as best we can.
Hey, Macky, this is Councilwoman Sandoval. Nice to see you.
Hi, how are you, Amanda?
Yes, I missed meeting all of you in person. I'm so glad to see you on video. I was dealing with my dogs and my family, so I had to turn my video off. They're like, come on, Mom. Sometimes you have to take the council hat off.
Of course.
But I just wanted to, I'm happy to support you. Anybody who ever comes to my office, I send them to Bienvenidos. I sent the local 858, which is the fire union. So I'm happy to partner with Sunnyside and do either a food drive or a donation drive. And, I don't have the funds to do matching, but I could do, a bigger donation and then cite people to give. So whatever you think would be better. I forgot that you all do Thanksgiving baskets as well. And I think with so much loss in our community, Dia de los Muertos is canceled. I was going to host a walk through Dia de los Muertos, and that's now had to been canceled because of the Safer at Home.
Oh, it's so sad.
I know. So do you feel money is better, like
yes.
bigger?
I really want to say yes, just because it gives us so much more flexibility. And sometimes, it's hard if we get we can get 1,000 cans of green beans, and that doesn't really, meet the need that we have for, the variety that we need. So I would say if you're going to put the word out, it would definitely be for donations and of cash or money, and that would make a big difference. And it also says on the website how you can use that for your donation to be tax deductible.
Okay, I'll put that in my November newsletter and I'll spread the word. Thank you for all that you've done. I know that you all expanded into West Colfax during COVID and had a bigger reach. And so I just want to say thank you for serving on a board as important as this. And what you said resonated with me. We don't want to celebrate hunger and hurt.
No.
But yeah, I do want to celebrate you all. So maybe we could turn something into a recognition of the steadfast work that you have done to provide meals to those who I know personally. I've sent a couple people I know personally who reached out, and I said they said they had no money, and I said they won't turn you away. And they texted me back and they said you were right. And so I also went to Food for Thought, Bob Bell, who provides food for DPS students. So this is something that's near and dear to my heart, because when you're hungry, you can't function. So it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We have to provide people the basic bottom needs.
Yes, and as a board, we're always looking to figure out what the need is and how we can meet it. So if you guys have any requests or you're aware of things that we are not, able to, not currently providing, please don't hesitate to let us know, because that doesn't mean that we couldn't find a way to do that. Because that's our mission, and we really would like to know what the need is in this area and how we can meet it.
Thank you. Macky. We have a few questions in chat or a comment as well. So James has a question. He says, with the development of 38th Avenue, has Benvenidos feeling any pressures with regards to rent escalations?
Yes, absolutely. And one of our goals for this year is we're working with Paul Tamburello to help us locate maybe a new site. We're worried that the building's going to get sold. Of course, it's right on that corner, and it's owned by someone who's had it for a very long time. And we just feel like it's hanging by a thread, and we are definitely looking, even maybe possibly, to purchase something, if that's even, if we could figure that out how to do that. But we are definitely, that is a good question, because yes, we are worried about that. And we are always looking for a possible new location.
Thank you. And then Emma also says that Dave Sabados, actually her husband, is willing to help sponsor and organize a bigger food drive in the neighborhood. So maybe we can put our heads together and just think of some ways that we can give back and also support our local businesses, and maybe do some sort of match, since a monetary donation is in favor.
Oh, that's
We're
fantastic.
talking about this as a group, and because all of our holiday activities are basically canceled, we thought doing
Yes.
a food drive would be a really worthwhile cause. for the
You're making me
community.
feel so good.
Yeah.
Thank
So no,
you.
so that's what we're going to focus on, and working with Amanda's office, maybe we can make this bigger. I will say that in Sunnyside, I've already emailed most of our business contacts to say that we plan on running a food drive. A few people have already responded that they're interested. And, you know, I think we'll have to do a couple of different things, right? There is always there's going to be people who can write a check. There's going to
Yes.
be people who are going to collect things. And
Terrific.
we can get, you know, restaurants and bars to potentially do a percentage of sales, right? Over.
Yes, we've had that quite often. And, you know, because now they're all struggling, we haven't even thought of, you know, tapping them for anything right like that right now. But in the past, it's definitely
I guess
been
I'll
one
do
of
that
our
for you.
fundraising ideas.
I'll do that for you. But yeah, the goal is that we ask everybody, and however that they can participate is, and we want to have the ability for individuals to take their kids to the coffee shop and drop off a can, because
Exactly.
there's some value in showing and modeling that. But then other people may be able to do a percentage sales, and then other people can simply write a check. So however, you know, and we'll reach out to all of the businesses to get them to participate one way or the other. And we too will probably do a matching thing, because we're not spending money on other stuff. So
Thank you so much. My heart is just swelling. Thank you.
That dollar for dollar is really important. So
yes.
Well, thank you very much.
$1 equals $9 in food purchase for us at the Rocky Mountain, you know, food bank. So just that's how important a dollar can be.
And there are so many businesses and people that love to, you know, eat out in the neighborhood. And so if we can find a way to support our local businesses, and maybe, like I said, they give a $1 donation at checkout, or, you know, when they're stopping by for a coffee, it all adds up.
All right, it sure does. And thank you so much for allowing me to come tonight, and for the work you do. I'm new to fairly new to Berkeley neighborhood, but I was on the Honey Board for many years, and that's how I know Amanda.
Macky, did you move to my little neck of the woods?
Yeah, I'm living at the Mirador. Do you know where that is?
I do.
Yeah, so
I'm
it's
gonna
across
come
from,
and not
from the
during-
Willis Place Golf Course. Yeah.
Yeah, my daughter was a golfer at North. She graduated.
Well,
this
awesome.
past
There are
year.
definitely questions.
I'm sorry, what?
I'll come visit you after COVID.
Great. I can't wait. That would be lovely. Okay. Anything else?
Thank you. Hey, Amanda, I'll be in touch with your office to see how we can make this bigger.
Perfect.
Oh, I love it.
The food drive
Greg is going to
for the
be
holiday
so
food drive.
excited. Thank you. I'll report to the
Okay,
board.
good. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
taking
you
his
so
part
much.
tonight.
I'm just
Thanks.
delighted to have met you. Thank you so much. Good night.
Awesome. Thank you very much. All right, folks, we're going to shift over to now SUNI committee updates. And without any further ado, as we're running a couple of minutes behind, we'll jump right to our financial couple of slides. And Phil Taylor is going to walk us through that. He's our treasurer. Take it away, Phil.
Sure. Can everyone hear me?
I can.
All right, fantastic. Thanks, Trupti. Thanks to the board and to our members for giving me the opportunity to serve as treasurer. Yeah, these next couple of slides will just offer a brief summary of how SUNI is funded and how those funds are used to advance our mission, which is promoting a vibrant, inclusive, and harmonious community in Northwest Denver. So at the outset, I'll say that 2020 has not been a normal year for SUNI financially, nor has it been for any nonprofit. As our events team will discuss, we've had to greatly scale back our community events and programming this year. Our budget has shrunk in ways we never could have predicted. At the same time, our 2020 revenue from our residential and business memberships is on pace to fall significantly short of what we generated in 2019. So I'll get to that in a bit. Trupti, can you go to the next slide? So the next couple of slides here break down the sources of revenue and our expenditures for 2019 and 2020. Given the pandemic, it's important to note that the 2019 data is far more representative snapshot of what SUNY's finances look like. As you can see on the left there, annual membership payments that we receive from Sunnyside residents and businesses represent roughly half of our revenue in 2019. And we're very grateful for the generosity of the residents and business owners who help keep SUNY strong. The bulk of the rest of our revenue in 2019 came from large one-off donations from businesses that helped play a critical role in helping us fund some of our events like Jazz in the Park. And that small slice you see for fundraising represents what we raise at our annual bingo event. So the pie chart on the right shows a rough breakdown on how that money is spent. Some of the significant expenditures for 2019 include printing and mailing costs, which help us keep in touch and reach out to our residents and businesses. We have event-related costs, which include permits, insurance, stage and equipment rentals, and payments to musicians. And that donation slice represents a scholarship that SUNY awarded to a neighborhood senior who demonstrated a commitment to community service. So let's go to the next slide.
Sorry, there you go.
So here's the financial breakdown for 2020. As I mentioned before, we're in uncharted territory here with the pandemic. So these numbers are not at all representative of a typical budget year. While our financial position as an organization remains strong, we are seeing some concerning trends. For example, revenue from residential memberships is down about 75% from where it was at this time a year ago. This is perhaps due in large part because we weren't able to hold our annual meeting and pizza party as normally scheduled in April, which is an in-person event. It's a key opportunity for SUNY to recruit new members and also encourage existing members to renew their memberships. In addition, annual membership from businesses is down about 50% today from where it was at this time last year. So this is a year in which a lot of our programming has had to been canceled and downscaled and sort of reimagined. So in the near term, this drop in revenue is not really a huge issue, but we're hopeful that membership can bounce back soon, when the world's economic forecast improves and our programming can be restored to full capacity. So let's go to the next slide.
Hey, I just want to add,
Sure.
with the issues on membership of businesses and residents, given the pandemic, I think we've been a little bit more cognizant of not trying to solicit as much, but as either individuals or businesses can and are willing to or reach out to us to join or fund us, we certainly take that opportunity, but we've conscientiously have not tried to solicit this year, knowing that it's been a challenging year for everyone. So, we're being cognizant of what the challenges everyone's facing. Thank you.
Everyone's feeling the pain, residents and businesses alike, and so these numbers really aren't surprising, and we accept these conditions, and we're just hoping for the best. So I'll just talk a little bit about the membership, just a snapshot. We currently have over 100 paid residential memberships in Sunnyside. These are individuals or households who donate anywhere from $10 to $35 a year. It's important to note that our bylaws define a member as anyone who lives or owns a business in Sunnyside. So you don't have to be a paying member to be considered a member of SUNY. You have all the voting privileges of a paying resident. So you'll see also we have 23 business paid memberships currently. Those who donate at least $100 per year. And you'll see in the last bullet point there, Sunnyside's a big neighborhood. We have over 10,000 residents, that comprise more than 4,000 households. So we have a tremendous opportunity to grow as an organization. And one of our key goals, and Councilwoman Sandoval alluded to this earlier, is finding ways to better engage and support all people who call Sunnyside home, not just the folks on the board and the folks who are on this call who are already strongly engaged in what's happening in the community. But one of our goals is to reach deeper into the community and really have an accurate cross section of who Sunnyside is. So we encourage anyone who can afford a paid membership to consider subscribing on the website, sunnysidedenver.org. As the previous slide showed, your generous support is the foundation of what we do. And there are some perks too. Just wanted to mention that all paid members get an annual member benefit card. And I'll just hold up mine right here. I don't know if you can see it in the camera. That it contains some really great deals on local neighborhood businesses. The card used to come as a trifold and it listed all of the benefits, but I think the benefits became so numerous that we had to give up and simply reference the benefits on our website. So they're now listed on the sunnysidedenver.org website. I found that my $35 annual household membership pays for itself within maybe just a handful of trips to places like Diebold's and El Jefe and Crush Pizza and Tap, some of the places I go so often I'm embarrassed to admit. But in addition to these benefits, when we grow our membership, it shows that Sunnyside's residents are invested in the future of the neighborhood. And this gives the organization both credibility and leverage, when we're confronted with challenging issues like zoning and development and planning, which Bill's going to discuss here in just a bit. But those are just a few of the good reasons to join Sunny, and we thank you all for your continued support.
Thank you, Phil. Do we have any questions for Philip before we move on to Bill Hare? We are definitely running a few minutes behind, so I don't see any in chat. All right. Bill, you're up next. Bill Hare, our
Hopefully I'm
PCD chair.
unmuted. Am I unmuted?
Nope, you're talking. We hear you.
Fantastic. Well, good evening, everybody. Bill Hare. I co-chair the PCD committee, the Planning and Community Development Committee for Sunnyside. James Bresniak is my co-chair, but for the sake of time, I'm going to take the lead here. Want to mention for anybody that is interested in any of these topics, the second Thursday of the month is always our monthly meeting. And I have put into the chat room my email address. If you have any questions or you'd like to get on the mailing list, please get a hold of me, bill@littlecolorado.com. As far as the highlights, I will go through these very quickly for the sake of time. The first one I think has been covered quite extensively. The neighborhood planning initiative that's starting up this winter is going to be a very exciting time for our committee and for the entire neighborhood. So I would really ask everybody to get involved. There will be a lot of ways to get involved over the year and a half, 2 years that the neighborhood planning initiative goes on, and please avail yourself of those. Wanted to mention one of the things that the PCD committee was very involved in about a year and a half ago was a negotiation with Excel relative to the cell tower that they put into the substation over on Inca and 44th. Due to our follow-through, primarily executed by James, the landscaping that was negotiated as a kind of a quid pro quo for their tower has now been pretty much completed. So next time you're by the substation, take a look. It's all irrigated, so hopefully it'll be with us for many years to come. And I think it was a very good trade-off for the tower that was put in. Secondly, in the last 18 months, we participated as stakeholders in the 41st and Fox Street study that was primarily focused across the railroad tracks from us, but did impact us. And I would say the one thing that I would mention to everybody that came from that is there was a lot of talk about either 47th or 44th Street having a bridge across the railroad tracks into the 41st and Fox Street area. And that has pretty much been eliminated. I mean, I wouldn't say 100%, but probably 99%. It looks as though it's much more feasible to have the connection built north to 48th Street under Highway 70 rather than it was not very functional from an engineering perspective to get across the railroad tracks. We were also involved in highlighting some safety concerns with a proposed hotel at 38th and Calumet. That is still somewhat up in the air. The hotel has not moved forward, but neither of our safety concerns been dealt with yet. So that's still somewhat in process. We've had in the last 12 to 14 months, 4 major projects, 2 of them 8 stories, a 3-story and a 5-story project, all of which have made presentations at our monthly meeting, and all of which we've made provided support letters as they've gone forward with their zoning requests. So I think that was, I think over the next couple of years, you'll see some exciting projects come to life that we're in support of. And then the last point that I wanted to cover was the residential overlay that we've been working on now for a couple of years. And Trupti, if you can take us to the next slide. Many of you, I'm sure, have heard about the residential conservation overlay. We got started with it back in the fall of 2018. We had some community workshops, and then there was a public presentation in February presenting at that point in time what looked to be a final first draft, if you will, that went to the city and had a very, I think we had about 65 people at that public presentation. And then we started into the pre-application process with the city planning department. And then more recently, and I'd like to give a shout out to Amanda and her office, and specifically to Naomi, with the hiring of Naomi in Councilman Sandoval's office. There's been a lot more commitment to land use, and they've been able to provide a lot more leadership to our overlay process. So what we did under Naomi's leadership is to develop a working group over the last 6 months, 7 months, and that's really still in process. And here over the next several months, what you should all start to see is announcements for methodologies that you can have your own input on the current state of the overlay. There have been some modifications based on the city planning department's input and based on the working group members' input, and quite a bit of dialogue. But really the next most important part of the process, and the one that I know Councilman Sandoval is very committed to, is getting out and getting community input, getting community support. And frankly, we need to confirm that the entire community, the majority of the community, is behind this overlay, and that's what will give the proposal that we're making credibility when it goes in front of the planning board, and then once it gets through there to city council. So that's the process that we've got ahead of us. If there are questions, I'll certainly answer them, but for the sake of time, I think I'll shut up.
All right, do we have any questions for Bill? I'm not seeing anything in chat specific to PCD right now. I do want to ask all of the attendees to put your email in the chat because we will be doing lotteries for gift certificates for the folks who attended today. So put your email in there in the chat. We'll be saving the chat. We'll go back and then randomly select a few people for prizes. So definitely wanted to make sure folks knew about that. Again, any questions for Bill before we move on to our events committee and our final piece, final speaker, final presentation? All right. Okay. We've got Dawn here, and she's our events committee lead, and she's going to talk about kind of the state of affairs here. All right, Dawn, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I'll make this quick, so I know it's getting late. 2019 was a typical year for our events. So we had our in-person annual bingo fundraiser, annual meeting, pizza party, jazz in the park, and then our second year hosting the annual sleigh ride. So those all were very successful events. Now into 2020, of course, we were able to sneak in the bingo fundraiser before the COVID-19 restrictions hit. And then we had to make some creative moves into doing some virtual things. So like this, we did the virtual contest along with the Sunnyside Stroll. That is new this year, and we're hoping to do that again. If not, maybe just continue it in a different form. And then coming up is the Halloween Extravaganza that we're happy to host in partnership with local business sponsors. And of course, with all of these events, we'll continue to keep everybody very keep up to date with COVID guidelines, restrictions, social distancing, markers, all the guidelines in place, especially with the new, the 7th, or now with the safer at home restrictions that just came out and starting tomorrow. So those will all be in place for the next event. And then below we have a quick breakdown of the time of the events this Saturday. So starting at 10 a.m. will be pumpkin carving at Cherry Bean. And then at 2 p.m. the pet costume parade from Lily's to Radiator. So there will be a start and finish line markers there. And then from 4 to 5, there's a kid costume contest at Monkey Barrel. 5:30 to 7 p.m. will be the trunk or treat at the Denver Book Binding, which may also be impacted with the current restrictions that were put in place. Again, just really watching those grouping and giving kind reminders out to people and patrons and neighbors and everybody who attends, just to wear their masks, and if they need hand sanitizer, we'll have that available. And then we'll end the night with the Dia de los Muertos parade ceremony at Necios. And they'll have dancers. I think they're hosting it on their patio. So it should be a fun day, full day of events. And then moving on from there, of course, we will not be with the, Ernie's was planning to take on the sleigh ride this year, Ernest Hall, Ernie's, which is now Ernest Hall. However, since they've closed, we decided not to have the sleigh ride, and then instead host again the house decorating contest, where there'll be first, second, and third prize winners, and then increase donations to Bienvenidos. Yeah, say that fast. And then also our Sunny Sippers have been put on hold for now, and hopefully we'll be able to do something soon with that. So that's all I got.
All right, well, let's see. Yeah, okay. Just looking at Carrie's comment. Yes, I figured the trunk or treat is still on. She had also originally, just maybe even last week, she had reduced the number of people she was bringing in for the number of cars. So originally she had room for 40, but she capped it off at like 15, 16 to have even more space and less people. So I think we should be fine with most of these things because they're outside and people can keep moving and nobody has to like stay in one place. And but But tomorrow, my first thing in the morning is going to be focusing on all of the newer guidelines and reaching out to all of our participating businesses to make sure they're still a go. And if there are any changes, we'll make changes online on Facebook Nextdoor and email folks with any changes. But for so far, we think it's going to be a go. We will be walking around and monitoring, have extra masks on hand. We'll have sanitizer. We'll just give gentle reminders for people to stay within groups of 5 unrelated and 6 feet apart. So same thing we did for the stroll. So I feel pretty comfortable that we can do this safely. But the businesses also will have to weigh in on it. But so far, I think it's a go. All right, folks, we are over time. So I wanted to thank everyone. We've got a few people who put in their emails in chat. If there's anybody left who needs to put it in, otherwise there's a couple people who will most likely all be winners because there's only a few in there. Wanted to thank everybody for your time. All the speakers, will send out a thank you individually. All of our board members. We still have our Survey Monkey up. We've had 36 responses. I had 33 earlier. Everybody on the board is going to be serving that had, wanted to serve on the board. So I think the elections are pretty well set as far as who's going to be on the board. No one signed up for joining as a sign-in. A few people signed in for newsletter, and a couple of comments were just good job. Nothing critical for us to work on. So thank you, everyone. Thanks to the board. Thanks to our speakers. Appreciate your time, and sorry for going a little bit over. And we'll have the recording for this and for the chat available to the folks who want it, and we'll probably post it online somewhere.
Thank
Everyone
you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Thanks very much. Take care.
Thanks,
Nice to
everyone.
see everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.